Hello, folks. This is Marky Mark, and we are here today in studio with Ira Goldberg of Goldberg Coins, and we're going to talk about ancient biblical coins. And we're really excited to have Ira as our guest. Welcome, Ira. And if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get started here.
Okay. Yes, Ira Goldberg. I'm 80 years old. And I've been around the block a few times, and I've always had an interest in ancient coins and Judean coins in particular. And I've been a professional numismatist for over 60 years. So I started as a kid, and ancient history always interested me from the time I can remember. And I got interested in Jewish coins, particularly before the Six-Day War, probably around 1965 or 66. And that's when I met a colleague who you'll have on next week, Mel Wax. And we came up with the idea of starting a club. And it was called the Biblical Numismatic Society. And I went out and got a little pamphlet printed, and a little booklet made of leatherette, and what we did, we started off because ancient coins were very inexpensive, and Jewish coins in particular, but they have such a rich history.
They were inexpensive at one time. What happened?
Well,
what happened?
Well, they're still inexpensive. Many of them. You take the widow's mite of the Bible, famous the widow's mite of the Bible.
Give us a little background, Ira, on the widow's mite, because we're trying to bring interest to people who are not so inclined with numismatics. So hopefully reaching out to, people who love the Bible, whether they're Jewish, Christian, people who are just unfamiliar. And people are shocked when I tell them that these things exist. Like they don't even know that ancient biblical coins are accessible, that you can buy a coin from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, very true. Age is not a criteria of value. Just because something is old doesn't make it worth anything. I can pick up a rock outside, and it's worthless. And it could be millions of years old. The coin is the same way. Coins have been in existence since the 7th century BC. So going back, ancient biblical history, you really have the start of coins of the Bible in the earliest times will date back to the 7th century.
I was just reading this in my daily devotional in Exodus 30. It says, when God was talking to Moses, he says, when you take the census of the children of Israel for their number, this is like the first coin that I'm aware of in the Bible. This is what everyone among those who are numbered shall give. So when you're doing a census, a half a shekel, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, the half shekel shall be an offering of the Lord. So coins are in the Bible.
Oh, yeah. It goes back even earlier than that, because you have in the Old Testament, they talk about darics and sigilloi. Those are the earliest coins of the Persians. Okay. So kick forward after the time of Moses is around the 10th, 11th century BC. We know of this because of hieroglyphics in ancient Egypt. So the Israelites, they come across the sea, the parting of the sea. They get to the Fertile Crescent area, which was really governed by the Greeks. Okay, so the Greeks were the people of the land, and the Israelites were just a tribe. They were a tribe of Israelites, but they had one distinction: they believed in mononism, in one God, and not multiple gods like the Greeks and the Romans. So fast forward, they settle in the land of Canaan, and it was divided in half between Canaan and Judea. And so the earliest coins were struck by the Maccabees. And how that came about was, I have a coin of,
We're talking the famous Judas Maccabeus and Hanukkah and that whole story narrative. What like 500 to 0 BC, kind of in that area.
well, we'll talk about Hanukkah because that's really the Maccabees were. The warriors of the ancient Jews. They were the Maccabees. They were the soldiers, and so they decided to fight against the Syrian king, who was Antiochus the Seventh, called Antiochus Ides. And I have, if you can see the coin, I'll try to show it on here. This is a coin. It's a large silver coin, about the size of a quarter. He's got his portrait on it, and he ruled 138 BC. So 138 BC, he's the ruler of the Seleucid Empire, the Greek, the Greek warriors, and the Maccabee tribes. They decided to finally put an end to this insurrection. The Greeks did against these Israelites, and so they fought. And the story of Hanukkah takes place because there was only enough candlelight to last a few days, and it lasted 7 days, enough to fight off the small band of Jews who fight off the Greeks. And they came to a peace, and the peace was to leave these people alone. And they wanted to strike their own coins. So throughout most of history, if you were a ruler and you defeated your enemy, you would not throw mud in their face. You'd strike your own handsome coin with your name on it or portrait on it. But the Jews didn't do that. And we did not know this until the 1960s. Okay? This is recently. Prior to the 1960s, this little coin here, I'll hold up. You can see it. You'll see it, I guess, when you make a slide. It's a little tiny bronze mite called a widow's mite. It was struck by the Jews for the opposite reason. They needed small change, and they didn't want to upset the Greeks. They just got their independence, and so they struck this little coin that has on it 3 different types. Very nondescript. One is a sunburst, because Jews do not put animals or gods on coins. One has an anchor on it. The other side is this little sunburst, a nondescript coin, but it was the lowest denomination, and that became known as a widow's mite in the famous story that Jesus tells about who gave more money.
Yeah, and we're familiar with that. That is the probably affordable coin. Now, like
yes, they're all over the place.
Yeah,
literally all over the place.
Yes.
So, back to the Numismatic Biblical Society. I had a good contact in Israel. Professor Kaplansky, who was a Polish professor, and he says, Ira, I have all these coins, and they're all over the place. They're $1, $2 a coin, sometimes less if you buy quantity. And they were issued by the kings like Herod the Great. Herod the Great.
Wow.
He was Herodian, started the Herodian dynasty. You have the Hasmonean dynasty, which is the Maccabees were part. And you have 5 or 6 rulers who struck these coins, and they're very inexpensive. So, I can supply them to you. So I mentioned it to Mel. We decided on a little booklet, and made a plastic and polyethylene, as I remember, and then some paper inside. It was like parchment. And we tell the story of the widow's mite. We tell the story of Herod the Great. We showed a coin of the first revolt, the second revolt, about 10 different coins. And we charge $30 a month. And each
Whoa.
well, that was for the booklet, the book, and you got at least 1 or 2 coins every month.
Oh, there you go. Okay. That
And,
makes sense.
and this went on for, I would say, 5 years. And we had
Wow.
over 500 people were members of this Biblical Numismatic Club.
Can I sign up for that right now for $30 and get some free?
My dad and my uncle were very proud of me for starting such a thing at a young age. But I always liked Jewish history, and I liked these coins. But it became much bigger than that. It turns out the problem, one of the problems was putting these coins, bronze coins, into these leatherette pockets. After 2 or 3 years, they turn green because polyurethylene, caused a reaction to bronzes, and they get this green bronze disease. So I got a lot of complaints, but it started off a lot of collectors, and some of the great collections today of Jewish coins were original members of the Numismatic Biblical Society.
So starting that so long ago in the, you said in the 60s, you're kind of like the Indiana Jones of ancient biblical coins, you and Mel and maybe David Hendon. Was there just a small group of you guys that were interested in grabbing these things out of Israel?
Yes. David, my second or third trip to Israel, in those days, there was no restrictions in taking coins out.
Wow.
And you dealt with whoever you wanted to. It was wide open. There was one individual called Yaakov Misharer. He wrote the book Ancient Jewish Coinage of the Second Temple Period, and that changed everything, because everything we thought we knew about ancient coins, as I started to tell you, the earliest coins of the Jews were these bronzes. For centuries, it was thought that this coin was the first coin of the Jews. It's a shekel. It says shekel year one. So when Yigal Yadin in the 1960s went ahead and went on Masada and really rediscovered Masada, he found coins of year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It disproved everything we knew of Jewish coins. That Yigal Yadin's discovery proved that these shekels were not, in fact, the first coins of the Jews, but the earliest coins that I mentioned these were the first coins of Jewish revolt. The Jewish revolt took place in 66 A.D. through for the next 5 years. And then, of course, they were defeated by the Romans. And Yigal Yadin wrote his book called Masada. Yaakov Misharer became he got his doctorate degree with his book, Coins of the Second Temple Period. That became the Bible of numismatics. And so much of it, it still is the Bible. Mel's book, David Hendon's book, it's all still the basis, all comes from Yaakov Misharer. So I met David Hendon on one of my early trips. He was a few years younger than me. He was living in a kibbutz, and he was from New York and has a wonderful personality. And I had some money as a young man, and he had the brains. So we made a good team, and we got along well together. He told me who were the leading numismatists in Israel. I met them all. And I started making multiple trips over to Israel. Probably been there 50 times. Since 1990. The latest trip was 1995. I just don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the story of and then I met Mel Wax, and Mel Wax loved Jewish coins in Israel, and so we had a lot in common. And Mel and I were similar age, so that's how all this came about. And so I'm here today to answer some questions, show you a few things, and talk about numismatics and biblical history.
Yeah, it's great having a fellow nerd out there who likes these coins, because, back in the day, I can't understand how somebody gets excited about stamps or baseball cards or Star Wars. I mean, this stuff is real history. This is archaeology pulled out of the earth. It's beautiful. It might have been held by who knows, the early ancient Greeks or the Persians or the Romans. It might have been, there's that story in the Bible where they asked Jesus if he should pay taxes. And he says, does anybody have a denarius? Give me one. And then, he holds it up and says, render to Caesar what's Caesar and render to God what's God's. And you never know who these things could have been held by. But we know they were in circulation at that time by those people. And so I find it amazing. I love collecting this stuff. It's an addiction.
Mark, I do too. The fact is, we talk. I've worn this. Maybe you can see it.
Yes.
It doesn't look like much. It's a necklace, but it's a coin of the Second Revolt. You can barely see, but it's got a palm tree on it. Okay, which has always since ancient history, the palm tree has representation of Judea, Palestine at the time. So
the tabernacle.
What happens is this coin was struck in 135 AD. It's the last vestige of Jewish independence until 1947, when Israel became a state. So I wear coins worth maybe $100, $150 of jewelry. Now it's a lot more than that. But
you sell off the expensive stuff, though.
Yeah, but it's a reminder that I live with it, that Israel is a nation, and the last vestige of independence was prior to the formation by the UN and under Truman. You've got this coin, and it's not an expensive piece. The shekel, on the other hand, that I showed, is expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, even it's a big, expensive silver coin.
Have you, Ira, when you went to Israel, it sounds like you were mainly dealing with like coin dealers, antiquities dealers. Are they going around with like a metal detector, or are they digging and then they find them? Or tell me a little bit about like your experience in acquiring the coin.
Well, yes, today I think everybody in the Middle East has a metal detector. Okay, everybody. And but I was going over to Israel to really try to find more ancient Judean coins because of my friend Kaplinsky, the professor from Poland.
Yes.
He was getting up in age and he couldn't come over, and he invited me. So through him, he knew who the dealers were, and along with Dave Hendon, I met the dealers. I met the important collectors, and I met Yaakov Mesherer, who was head of the museum. And so I made a deal with Mesherer. I said, look, he knew everything that was going on in the Middle East. It was his business too. And he says, I'll tell you if there's new finds, and I'll tell you who has the coins. Just give me first right of refusal. And I says, well, I'll do better than that. I will give you the coins that you want for the museum. Okay. And we'll worry about paying me later. Well, I'll just give you what you wanted. You had first pick, and that's how the year 5 shekel was another story. Probably the thing that really changed ancient Judean numismatics into being a real business. And this goes to, let's see, about 50 years ago. Up to then, good Jewish coins could be had for, even expensive ones, $1,000, $2,000. Okay, but the greatest rarity of all was the year 5 shekel. From the story I mentioned on Masada, when Yugal made that discovery, there was only 6 or 7 pieces found. One went into the museum. One's in the museum in Jerusalem. One's in the Rockefeller Museum, and then there was one that came on the market, and I was offered the coin. So I'm now. This had to be 60, maybe 69. I've been to Israel a few times. 60, maybe 68.
So tell us a little about the shekel of Tyre. So that seems to be a coin that people are really kind of fascinated with. It has a history going way back, but you started mentioning dates. So dealing with kind of like the Judas coin, if you will. I've heard that some people collect coins and they try to map them to around the date of the crucifixion of Yeshua.
Yeah.
And then I know I've heard of people, David Hendon told me that some people have like 30 of them in their collection. People are just, so they feel like they have the original, Judas bounty for the betrayal. But if you could tell us something about that and the dating and how do we know that was at the time of the crucifixion?
Okay, because they're dated, actually. We know that the Greeks, like I said, the Seleucids, were they were the purest coin of the realm at the time, and one of the Seleucid kings, Antiochus IV, also known as the Epiphanes, issued this coin of Tyre. It has the god Melekirth on one side. I'll make sure you get a slide of this, and it's got an eagle on the other, and was always known to be of pure, sound silver.
Yes.
And it was accepted by all the money.
Close to 100%. Yes.
Yes, and it was called, the denomination in that part of the world was called a shekel. Okay, and it says shekel of Tyre, and then on the reverse it has Greek numerals, and those numerals are dating from the Seleucid era, and we know Jesus died around 32 A.D. And so those that are dated 31, 32 AD are considered the crucifix year. And that is, a very important coin to collectors of the Bible. And it sells for many times what a regular shekel of Tyre sells for. A good, nice shekel of Tyre, a representative of this famous coin, is only $500 to $700. Maybe a really good one is $1,000. I have one that from a collection that I'll be selling soon. Very unique. This is what it looks like. It's got the famous eagle on the reverse, and then you see the dates. It says shekel of Tyre, and it has the Greek numerals here of the Seleucid era. It dates it. It dates to about 120 AD. And then it's got the pagan god Melkarth on the obverse. But what makes this coin so rare is, remember, it's wanted because of the purity of the silver. This coin is a contemporary counterfeit. You can see the plating coming through there. The only one I've ever seen that was a contemporary counterfeit.
Now you got me on that, Ira, because you call them a foray. Is that the right word?
A foray. Foray is a French word for plated.
Yes, because I came into your office and I was showing you my ancient biblical coins, and you said they all look good, but then you pulled out my tribute penny, which was the where Jesus says, show me a denarius and render to Caesar what's Caesar, and you said that's nice, but that's a foray from a contemporary foray. So that means that there was somebody doing like counterfeit money at that ancient time. Is that correct?
Mark, what it shows is nothing's new under the sun. They were making forgeries even back in biblical time.
Yes, yeah. So those are kind of fun, and they have a lot of value. The fours.
They're rare because the genuine coins is relatively common. Okay, so at any rate, and then I picked up along the way Antiquities, because I had an interest in Antiquities, and we didn't really deal in Antiquities.
Before we go into Antiquities, okay, so these, for the coin newbies, which, I definitely was one at a time, forays. So the way I got started is my son likes history and he likes the Caesars. And I thought for his birthday, you know what I'm going to get is a Caesar, Julius Caesar coin. And it turns out those are real expensive, but I was able to get a Nero. But along the way, I found for people who might be interested in coins that if you go to like these sites, back to the swindlers that are out there, it's very possible that what you're going to see is not a true authentic coin. It could be a forgery. It could be made in Bulgaria. These things are it's hard to know what you're buying. So what would you recommend to somebody who's getting started like me, where you end up losing hundreds of dollars and later discovering that what you have in your hand is not really the shekel of Tyre? It's not the Judas betrayal coin.
Yeah, when you go on these tours to the Holy Land, and you go, of course, all these guys, all these tour guides, they're going to take you to shops where they get a commission, or they're going to sell you. Oh, I have a friend who has a coin. They're all fake. You should really only buy, if you have an interest in ancient coins, only buy from a dealer who's a member of the PNG, if it's in America, Professional Numismatic Guild, which I'm a past president of, because we have a code of ethics. We stand behind everything we sell for as long as we live. And then if it's a European dealer, he's a member of the IPN. If you purchase a coin from someone who's a member of the IAPN or the PNG, you can be assured you have a restitution in case of any problems. But I would never buy from a site or from
on the internet
who offers you, a deal.
Yes.
There's no, there is no Santa Claus.
No, I was sorry to interrupt you. You started to speak about Antiquities.
Okay, well, I met, on one of my travels, I met Moshe Dayan, who was the defense minister of Israel during the time of Golda Meir. And we became very good friends. I've been to his home many times. In fact, he came to my parents' home when he was here in America and stayed with them. I'm very proud of that. And I met him, and he told me about a find that he uncovered. And I don't collect coins personally, but I do collect antiquities because it's something that I usually don't deal in. So I brought one today to show you because it's of particular importance.
Oh, beautiful.
It's this. Doesn't look like much. Okay, let me move my hand. Okay. And it's a tile. It's a stone tile, and it says Fratimios Decimios. And Fratimios Decimios was the Roman 10th Legion. So now you have Judea has been conquered by the Romans, and the first revolt is over. And during this time period, Titus was Vespasian's son, and he was put in charge of Judea and the 10th Legion. The 10th Legion went and marched through Israel, and wherever they went, the Roman 10th Legion, they'd make their mark. You don't make a mark and you don't put it on a wall, because the walls come down. Walls come down with floors never do. Floors stay. And this was a floor. That means the Roman 10th Legion has been here and they put their stamp on it. And I thought that was interesting. And so I brought this back, and I don't think today they'd let me out of the country with it, but back then. And so I keep it in my house, and I can tell the story of how floors last forever and walls don't.
And pots seem to be another popular antiquity I've noticed too.
Yes, I mean,
some collect those
storage pots, little plain storage pots, but the shapes And they're very popular, and some of them are very attractive. Of course, the Greeks made them, great pieces. They're signed by masters, and some of them are worth, millions of dollars. But there's a lot of artifacts that have very little value.
Now, Ira, tell people who are not familiar with coins, tell us about the big, most expensive, the ooh-ah coin of coins. In your experience, what's been like the top 2 or 3 coins of all times that are in that kind of biblical period?
I would say the year 5 shekel was the biggest thing because it changed numismatic history. So I get this phone call back in the 60s that we found a year 5 shekel. Come to Israel, bring. I says, what do they want for it? They want, I think it was $16,000 for it, but only cash. I says, I want the coin. Okay, so I thought I could sell it. So then the next story was how I was going to convince my parents to let me take $16,000 to Israel. And of course, no, it has to be in cashier's checks or American Express checks. I said, Dad, these people do not understand American Express checks. In cash, they wanted $100 bills. So I convinced my parents to let me go. So I fly to Israel, and I go ahead and I was staying at the King David Hotel, and somebody comes and gets me and says, okay, we're going to take a taxi, but you just bear with us. So I get in the taxi, we go into Jerusalem, we have to go into a Jordanian taxi because we're going outside of Israel, and we went somewhere out of Nablus or into the Sinai. I'm not sure where I was. All I knew, I was told to lay down. They put a cover on me, and there was no lights out there. And I ended up somewhere in Beersheba or somewhere in a Bedouin camp. Was I scared? No, I was really adventurous. I tell you, I thought I'd be scared to death. But I was adventurous, and I had all this cash with me. So I knew I wasn't going to go home with the cash one way or the other. So I go into this tent, and the guy is sitting on stacks of European auction catalogs. It's Bedouin. The guy knew exactly what he had.
Yeah.
And so I had to drink the Turkish coffee, which to this day I can't handle. It's therapy coffee. But I sat on there and in a big tent with 6 or 7 people, and we chatted, and they tried to sell me some weapons, like little knives, decorative daggers, and I bought 1 or 2. I had to show that I was, I had to have courtesy. I wasn't going to leave with the money anyway, so I bought their a few trinkets. And after drinking a couple cups of that Turkish coffee, I'm getting a little sick in my stomach. The guy brings out a napkin, a hanky, a filthy hanky, and unfolds the hanky, and there's a year 5 shekel.
Oh, nice.
There was no question in my mind if it was genuine or not.
Yes.
I knew it was good. I says, okay. Oh, and then they, of course, started on, who told you it was 16,000? 16,000, it was 20,000. I said, you're dealing with the Middle East.
Start the
So
negotiation.
I bought 16,000, put it back in my pocket. And then I knew I had to make sure it was genuine. And I was afraid that if I declared it, they wouldn't let me out of the country.
Yeah.
So I took it out. I flew to Zurich, showed it to Dr. Leo Mildenberg. He said, Ira's good. Had my passport stamped, flew back on the next flight to Israel, declared the coin at customs, so I knew they couldn't take it from me. Went to see Misharer, give him a big hug and kiss. He says, you ended up with the year 5 shekel. I knew it was found. I'm glad you got it. And we became very close friends. I took that coin and I came back home. and I was able to sell it, and I sold it. I guess today I can tell you I sold it to a member of the Hunt family, and he was not didn't care. He didn't care about Jewish coins. He liked rare Greek coins.
Yeah.
So here I am, a Jewish guy selling a coin to probably was an anti-Semite. Didn't know. I got a world record price for the coin, and I was the hero in the Goldberg family that entire year.
Oh wow, that's an amazing story.
Numismatics today, today that shekel is worth $500,000 or more. The last one to be sold, I sold 5 years ago for $300,000 a year 5 or $350,000, and he wouldn't sell it for double that. So it's probably $1 million coin. It changed the whole price structure of Jewish coins.
Now tell us about the Ides of March.
Okay, well, Ides of March is a coin that was struck by Brutus in 44 BC, and it commemorates the event of Brutus, assassination of Julius Caesar, and it's one of the most famous coins of all time. In silver, I've handled several of them. I've sold one for about $350,000 that today's worth well over $1 million. And I've sold some as cheap as $50,000 that were really badly corroded. There is one or two in gold, only one that's really genuine, that's in the Berlin Museum. There was another one that made the news recently that sold for $7 million. It wasn't genuine, and the provenance was forged. And that person is now in prison for selling a coin that was a false pedigree. Wow. No. When you see a pedigree in our sale, bet your life that's the truth. And that's important with ancient coins. This is where it came from.
That's fascinating. You could probably talk all day about all the things you've seen in your 50 trips to Israel and finding coins, and the one that I've always kind of been fascinated with as a believer in Yeshua is the book of Daniel, how it mentions Antiochus Epiphanes and that the war, and he's always kind of been an interesting villain, and I'd have to say that's one of my favorite coins, is seeing that creepy guy that says on the back of it, Antiochus Epiphanes, and God in the flesh, which was a common delusion, I understand, by the Greeks and the Romans. You've probably seen a few of those in your day, I imagine.
Yes, Antiochus IV Epiphanes is a very important coin to all biblical students and every Judean collector, because that really is early beginnings of Jews decided to strike and have their own coinage. And that coin was the only coin that was allowed, the temple tax was allowed to be paid in until the Jews had their own coins. Yeah.
Yeah, and last Christmas, my wife and I, we put together 7 churches of the book of Revelation, and I found that was really fun, and it wasn't so expensive. So what I was trying to get is the 7 churches mentioned, like Ephesus, Smyrna, Philadelphia, Thyatira, Laodicea. I was trying to get one from each city that was kind of representative of that passage. And I think I did it for under like $2,000, and I got some really nice examples. And so I just love this stuff. I could talk to you all day. And I could it's an addiction though, isn't it? Right? People start buying coins. They go coin crazy.
By the way, Yaakov Meshuer also issued a book called Coins of the Diaspora under the Roman period. And all of those cities that struck coins with Roman emperors on it are available, and they're not expensive. You can buy them for under $100 a piece, most cities. Some cities are a little rarer than the others, of course. But and the more beautiful the coin is, the better the quality. Like anything else, it rises in price.
Yeah, and I was at the Long Beach Expo, which us in Southern California will sometimes frequent. And CNG had the what do you call them, the 12 Caesars,
Yeah.
and it was an expensive piece, like $100,000 for all of them, but that was something amazing. And so you, Ira, you guys have frequent auctions coming up here. If somebody's interested in looking, finding out more about you, would it be just go to goldbergcoins.com and they can see what's going on there?
Absolutely. I'm happy.
And do you and Mel have any like periodicals, or where do you communicate, or is there any place else that you might recommend to stay afoot with this sort of thing? Other than Marky Mark, who's bringing all the latest in coin information.
There's the handbook of Jewish coins that Mel and I issued, and it's reasonable, and it tells all the stories. And that would be the best way.
That's a good one. Yeah, and I would recommend to people to buy that first before you start going on eBay and trying to acquire coins, because that gives you so much in one, setting. And next week we're going to have Mel on here to take this a little further and delve into his book. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, Ira. I really appreciate it. Happy we finally get together.
I'm happy to do it. And anybody has any interest in, they go to our website. I'm happy to talk biblical coins with them.
Yes, go pick up some today at that website. And are you guys going to be, so your auctions for the ancient stuff a couple times a year, would you say?
We bought 3 a year. My next one is coming up October 16th, 17th, and 16th and 17th. And we have a catalog. And if anybody mentions it, I'll be happy to send them a catalog.
It's coming up quick. Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Ira. Really appreciate talking to you. Right. And yeah, we're going to get Mel in here next time, and we'll take it from there. But I really appreciate it. Thanks for the educating us and getting us up to speed with the latest.
Thank you. Happy to do it, Mark.